update Instagram real quick to tell them I'm doing the thing. Let's talk about my move from Jamaica to the United States. So first and foremost, this is going to be a big one because there's so much information to share, and I'm gonna make a 4-part video series on this. Part 1 will be the why did I decide to make this move, you know, what were my motivations, what was the journey to even coming to the point that, oh, I want to do a master's. 2 is gonna be the actual F1 visa process, which I know a lot of persons have questions about, and the actual move from Jamaica to the United States, specifically Texas. I'm based in Austin, Texas, if you don't know, and I'll cover all of those details. 3, I'm going to do a living in Texas, specifically Austin breakdown. I got questions around the cost of living, you know, lifestyle adjustments, culture shocks even, and so I'll be covering those things with you. And then finally, I'll just be looking at, you know, what the next steps look like for me, having completed the master's, being in the community for a while. It's actually, April will be 2 years, so I'm just shy of 2 years, and looking at the job market or where my pursuits are taking me now. So I hope you enjoy this series. Let's get into it. Let's rewind. So I'm filming this in November 2024, and a lot has happened since I first went on this journey. And so I want to take you through each step so you can understand the mindset and the changes I had to make in order to really come on this journey. It is not one without difficulty, but I can say that I've reaped multiple rewards, not just in the physical and material, but also in terms of my personal growth, my character, and my abilities. So let's get into it. What brought on this change was actually a car accident. And in this car accident, though I didn't sustain any life-threatening injuries, which the doctors really said was a miracle and x-rayed me twice, you know, I recognized the gift I had been given. I was always somebody who practiced gratitude and, you know, always tried to bring the good vibes, but it was almost like a different gear was created for me to really now step into my purpose. Not always knowing what that purpose was, but knowing that I wanted to ensure I lived a fulsome life so that whenever my time comes, I would have believed that yes, I did everything in my power, I showed up and I helped people, and my contribution to the world actually was one of goodness. So that is always how I've wanted to approach life, but this time around it was like, oh, actually in a split second everything can change. I sustained a concussion, no broken bones, not even a cut actually, even though the car was completely written off. And so this is what prompted me to really look at the way I was living, specifically to, you know, my motivations or my fears. One of my fears had to do with furthering my education. Why? Well, I was someone who wasn't super focused at UWI, University of the West Indies, for those who don't know. I did a lot of different things. I entered pageants. I was in clubs and societies. I was doing a whole heap of things, you know. But in terms of the focus on the schoolwork, I think I didn't understand the opportunities I could access through school. You know, other than, okay, you get the degree, but, you know, things like you work and travel or study abroad or just different things that can broaden your worldview. I was not aware of them, or I did not take the steps to take advantage of them. And so, you know, things like scholarships and stuff weren't in my view, in my focus at all. But when this accident happened, I realized that again, I need to stop living in fear. I need to also try new things again. It's something that I was known for, always just trying a thing. But I was within a corporate environment, and while I learned a lot in that environment, when you're comfortable, my dad used to always say, you know, comfort is a killer, because you start to get so lax on things that you could do. You start to turn down opportunities. So yeah, you know, with this second chance, I was like, you know what are the things that I'm afraid of, and what do I want to do? And I know I wanted to grow in my career, I wanted to grow in my education and just my general abilities. I would have been working in marketing and projects for a long time, and you know, now I wanted to broaden my scope. Especially in marketing, I was very frustrated sometimes because you only get the finished product. I was working on some cool stuff, you know, like, you know, teaching people how to use technology, online banking, even senior citizens. You know, those things were fulfilling to me because I always wanted to use technology to do good. but I wasn't necessarily at the point of creating it and, you know, configuring it and making sure that it's actually meeting the needs of the customer or the audience. So that was one of the opportunities I saw where, okay, this could actually be something I go into. And, you know, it would allow me to possibly in the future use the technology to do things in health or, you know, education, you know, areas that don't typically get technology first. And so that's kind of where my mind started to go. I would have made a video, which I'm so glad I did, back in that time when I started to do a lot of exploration. You know, I always ask myself, you know, if I had no, you know, funds or resources to do anything at that point, what would I do? Where would I get the information? And so I started to look for possibility models. I started to look at people on YouTube who were doing what I wanted to do. I thought maybe product management was around what I wanted to do, because it was a good merge between like projects and creation and tech. Also, I started to look at just having a general understanding of technology, which was really important for me because I wanted to go into this field, yes, fresh, but with still with some, you know, background information. You don't want to be completely lost. I want to understand even a little bit about what is being shared. So definitely I had the opportunity to just explore. I checked out this website called ADP List where I got to speak to a product manager from PayPal at the time. I think he was actually the head of product. Turns out he have Jamaican roots, you know, so there were just all these little breadcrumbs that I was following. And I actually went to visit Austin, where I am now, and I visited Austin before the car accident. And I remember the first time I visited, I was like, something about this place just, you know, I don't really know how to explain it, but I just liked it. It was my first time visiting anywhere off instead of the East Coast. So I went to New York. I went to Florida, of course, as a Jamaican. You know, that's an extension of Jamaica. But it was my first time exploring a new part of the US, and I had all these preconceived notions of Texas, but it wasn't like what I thought. You know, it was actually quite green. I didn't see any tumbleweeds, things like that. Anywho, you know, I started to really just look at, once again, exploring what could be. Now that I am reminded that my time here is short, what could be? What could I do? You know, without being afraid and without worrying too much about what people would think or being afraid of the comfort I had at that time. No, it wasn't as if I didn't have challenges while being in that role, or, you know, tried to get certain promotions, tried to put myself up, still was in a permanent role. And so, again, comfort and fighting that. So at that point now, I started to think through, you know, what does the tech space look like for me? As a black woman, as a Jamaican, as somebody who, you know, has seen quite a bit of different products, like what could I contribute? I was able to get a few training opportunities. In my exploration, having visited Austin again, I then stumbled upon the Masters of Science in Technology Commercialization. Oh, it's a mouthful, MSTC, right? So this program was bringing together the worlds of business and tech, which I knew a lot about business, but not too much about tech. And all of the things that they were talking about in the coursework and the different topics we would do were of interest to me. I was like, yeah, man, I want to learn that. I have a gap in knowledge there. That would be exciting. And what was also exciting for me is that this was a program that was STEM designated. Now, a STEM designated master's program, a STEM designated degree in the US gives you years to work in the US. And again, this was a very strategic move for me. So just to clarify, when you do a degree in the US, you get 1 year to work. Once you're finished, it's called OPT, Optional Practical Training. Well, when you do a STEM degree, you get 3 years. You get your OPT first, then you apply for an extension for your STEM OPT, your STEM Optional Practical Training. And so when I looked at this, I was like, you know, I've been wanting to expand my reach, expand my work portfolio, expand what I do. A lot of the tech companies I want to work with are based in the US. I've been working in fintech for a while, but, you know, I don't know if it's what I want to do now. Maybe I want to try something different. And I also had the opportunity while working with this fintech company to work with, you know, team members in Trinidad, Cayman, Bermuda. So I was broadening my Caribbean portfolio, you know. But I said, all right, then I would have want to take it to our next level. Truthfully, at the time, and even now, I thought of myself as like a citizen of the world. Like, I want to be able to explore. I always love exploring. You see me travel all the time. But now I wanted to explore in terms of the work I do and how I do it and where I do it and why I do it. Like, these were just all the thoughts for me all the time. So, you know, I'm day to day doing my work, you know, doing my daily work. But I'm also like, after work, when I have a little time, watching a YouTube video here, looking up something there, checking in on the mentorship platform there, like really just feeling like reignited. Because for a while, you know, things kind of get mundane and monotonous when you're doing the same thing at the same place. It's just the same. But now I had like this energy that just, you know, was like guiding me. And I followed that energy. I followed those breadcrumbs. So at that point now, I found the program and I'm like, somehow just filled with so much enthusiasm, not too worried about the what ifs. You know, I'm like, all right, so this is January 2022 now. And I'm like, wow, this program checks all the boxes. But I don't know, like, this is a big step to go and study abroad. I never had that study abroad experience for my bachelor's. I always wanted to do something like that. Is it even possible? Like all of the thoughts. And I say, you know what? I'm going to lay it all out in a spreadsheet. Because truthfully, I still had a lot of things in Jamaica that I needed to deal with. I had just bought a house through NHT. I had bills. I had a car loan. I had all of these things that, you know, sometimes I wondered, oh gosh, did I take on too much too early? But I believe that God knows what he's doing and he's helping you to have the right time, right? So, and for me, I had to trust that, because if I was going to do this, I couldn't just go off of my own abilities. This is something coming together for me. It's put in front of me. It's for me to take action or not. And so I laid it out in the spreadsheet and I was like, well, what would this look like? Just with what I know. Because one of the other things you learn on this journey is you only know things at the surface level, and as you go along, whether it's expenses, nuances, things you should have done differently, you'll only know as you start to take the steps. That's just how it is, you know? And I have to always remind myself of that. So I'm like, all right then, lay out the spreadsheet. Whew, I don't know, it's looking, I don't even know, like the school fee alone, but oh, maybe I get a scholarship, maybe I get multiple scholarships. Like, you know, every time I was talking myself down, I was coming back to the why that I had very early on, and the why that was stopping me from allowing my fear to paralyze me, you know? So with that being said, I decided I'm going to pursue this thing, but I'm going to be really specific about it. I'm going to talk to people, I'm going to ask questions, I'm going to ask for help, right? So I tried my very best to get, what would I say? I wouldn't say multiple opinions, because a whole heap of people never know or anything. It was a matter of course, letting my trusted few know, letting them hold me accountable. That was a big thing, because sometimes you say you want to do something, but you alone know you want to do it, and you don't hold yourself accountable. And the people who are close to you, who could be like, hey, thought you said you were going to do this and that, they can't do that for you because you're not involving them in your process. So I'm not saying you must tell the world, but I believe that even if it's one person, you can make them know, say, hey, I want to do this thing and I want you to remind me. You can keep it as simple as that, right? Also, I would have then, you know, started to look at the resources that the program itself was offering in terms of helping you along the way. So they had like alumni talks where people would come and talk about the program. I reached out to alumni myself, literally just go on LinkedIn. I'm like, MSTC, who applied for this, who did this program? Okay, I'm gonna message them. If them don't reply, okay, but I tried. And people replied, and I was able to say like, hey, do you have 10 minutes for a Zoom call? I just want to hear your perspective on the program and the investment you made. I also was, you know, attending like they had a session you could sit into, which was a live class. If you were in person, you could have gone in person, but of course I was in Jamaica, so I attended the class remotely. This was the actual cohort at the time, and I was able to see what the class would be like, you know? And so I did all of these things, and then, I started to think through, okay, I have information, now I need to take action. So the action meant writing a statement of purpose, which in itself, that's like what you hear, the college essay. In itself, whew, that was a process of self-discovery, awareness, questioning, because it's vetting you for the school, but it's almost like vetting against yourself. Like, is what you say true? Do you really want to do this? Is this really gonna help you? Are you really dedicated? Do you really want to go on this journey, and why? So I had to ask myself that over and over as I went through the process of writing. I started writing a statement of purpose maybe in March or April, seriously, like actually making the bullet points. But it was a difficult process because, like I said, you're almost like you have a mirror, you're looking at the mirror and you're like, are you really what you say you are? And do you really want to do this? And and it was like, okay. And I use YouTube, which again, this is why I'm here, giving back to the community, because I watched YouTube. I watched so many people who shared how they wrote their statement of purpose, whether it's for their bachelor's, master's, UK, US, whatever, just to hear, how their process went, learn from them, and then apply it to my own process. I also would have reached out for 2 letters of recommendation. That's what I needed to submit. And because I had been doing, I want to say, excellent work, showing up and always learning and taking the criticism, I would have had 2 managers from my place of work who were willing to write the recommendation letter for me. This meant a lot to me because these managers would have seen my growth over a 4-year period. And, it spoke to just not only my abilities to work, but my abilities to be a team member, to be someone who champions others. Like, that's really important to me, and I think that spoke well to what I would bring to the program. Things I needed to do too, there was like an application fee. I'm trying to remember if it was 50 or 90. I had to get a copy of my UE transcript, which didn't have all A's, so it's not like I was going in with stellar grades or anything. But I really tried to, represent myself fully, not just based on the grades, not just based on what was on paper, And I tried to connect my statement of purpose to before I even did a degree and before I even was done with school, and, how that took me through the process. So with that being said, with a lot of anxiety and self-doubt and still self-belief, because I still took the steps, I submitted my application in the first round, which would have been September 2022. So remember, from January to September, I give myself time, because you need time. You need time to make a plan, especially if you need an exit strategy. This entire process, I have to say, would not have been possible without my family and friends supporting me. Like I said, I would have mentioned it to a very small handful of people that I had this idea, I had this thought, I want to do this thing. And, I remember saying it to my dad and kind of like bracing to see what he would say. And I remember he was like, why not? Why not? He didn't come with any negatives. At the moment I started to share this with my loved ones, they believed in me more than I believed in myself, which is probably often the case for a lot of us. But something like this was gonna shift everything. I would have needed to resign. I would have needed to sell my car. I would have needed to, just change a lot of my life to go on this journey. I would be going back to school. Some of us see going back to school as a step back, and in a lot of ways it kind of is, but I want to say it's a step to the side, a pause, to really come back to center and think through, okay, where are the gaps in my education? And I want to also say that this whole journey of, applying helped me to think through, before I even was accepted, it helped me to think through my perception of education and what it meant to me. So instead of it just being, okay, a piece of paper, like I said, it was a strategic move to enter the US market for work and my products or portfolio or wherever it would go, maybe my own business. And also, it would have given me the space to gain knowledge, One of the things that I recognized on this journey was that I started to shift my focus from, again, it being a piece of paper to, understanding all of the access you have through education, like Education helps you to cross borders, literally. Education gives you access in ways that sometimes we don't even know are there for us. You know, we hear about scholarships, but we don't really know, and it just seems like, oh, it's for the smartest of the smartest. No, not necessarily. And when you find programs that are looking at you as a whole person, like this one, it really helps me to just, you know, understand my full value and even what is to come. So once I had everything ready for the application, of course, the documents needed, the statement of purpose, the letters of recommendation, the support and love from my family and friends, I, you know, mustered up the courage, barely, to submit the application September 2022. Now, I must admit, semi good. I almost never submit it. Now, I was in the first round, so I just wanted to get my application in early, but I was so afraid. You'd have thought that after all these months, my confidence would have been through the roof because I did all this self-discovery, all this research, all talking to people, people telling me they believe in me, but I still was nervous. I remember thinking, why am I doing this? Like the night when I sit down there, I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm just setting myself up for failure. Why am I doing this? Like, there are so many people I'm going up against at UT. UT is a top school in the US, University of Texas. Why am I doing this? And I remember my boyfriend, I have to tell him, thank you for the support, because I literally was not going to hit send. After all that work, from January to September, I was just going to talk myself out of it. I was crying, I was spiraling. And he reminded me that it was okay to feel this way, but I still have to take action. So, you know, I look back now and I'm like, what if I didn't? What if I didn't apply? What if I didn't submit the application? What if I talked myself out of it? What if I saw the school fee early on and said, oh, well, I can't do that. That's out of my, no, I can't. And just laugh it off and say, oh, it would have been nice. No, I don't want to get to the end of my life and say it would have been nice if I did that. I want to know I tried and it never worked out. I want to know I tried and it did work out. I want to know that I explored. I want to know that I lived. That's what I want. And, you know, I know we never come here for no motivation, but the point is, you know, there is so much I learned over this application period just for the masters alone, much less the visa, which we will talk about in another video. But I just want to say, give yourself the space to try. Give yourself the space to try. I am so glad I gave myself the space to try. Even though I was afraid, even though I was bawling, even though I was doubtful, even though I was, I don't know, angry about the past and not doing this sooner and maybe not giving myself the best grades going in, whatever it was. But I can confidently say that wherever the next steps go, this part of the journey was so enriching. And this helped me to build my character. This helped me to build my skills. This helped me to have information I can share with you. And I just hope that you give yourself a chance. I really hope you give yourself a chance. I believe that I should not be an anomaly. I believe many people can do this, and I want you to do it. I want you to go on this journey. I believe there's space for all of us. So hopefully, you know, this information here that I gave you at least lay the foundation for where we're going with this series. I wanted to set the stage so you understood why I did this, what my motivations were, how I actually went through the process of applying and, you know, thinking about the program and all of these things. And, you know, just laying the foundation, like I said, for the next part. So in the next video, we'll talk about the F1 visa application and also just the actual physical move and what it took, the steps I took to live here now in terms of, you know, all my clothes and all my things and selling my car. It was a lot. And I will share resources with you, contacts with you, because there are so many people who helped me on the journey that I know can help you too. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for listening. Please give me a feedback in the chat and I'll talk to you there. Thank you so much. Good vibes.